Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of an Apple a Day webinars presented by You Define Wellness. I'm Denise O'Malley, the founder of You Define Wellness, and I appreciate you joining us for this really innovative and exciting webinar that we have for you today. But just as a reminder before we jump into it, these are always free webinars. We host them on the second and fourth Thursdays of every month at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. But make sure you check our Facebook page. Just search for You Define Wellness and you will find us, because we always have webinars throughout the month that are just special editions that we bring in. So today is my pleasure to bring you one of my friends, Steve Drury, with the Alternative Board in Denver, Colorado. So Steve, welcome. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be a part of the call, and looking forward to diving in.
Oh, I got to tell you, I love this title. 3 people you need to talk with for outrageous success, and they're not who you think they are. So I am going to turn this over to you because I'm intrigued and I want to learn more.
All right. Well, yeah, so thanks for that, and thank you all for being a part of this. One of the things I always like to think about for myself, and I know you do as well, is, so why did you get into this in the first place? So maybe you're a practitioner of some science or some art. Maybe you own a business, and it's like, why did I really get into this? And I know that once we dive into that, and we can actually answer that, it's not like things become easier then, but it could become more simple because we know this, we have this vision, and we start going toward that. And then rude awakening sometimes for some of us is, well, I have this issue or that issue. So for those of you who are joining us, you may have run into a few of these issues, like how do I delegate appropriately, or how do I bring in new clients, or even retain the ones I have? Maybe I've got them to a different place in their business or their health or their personal life. And so how do I retain them? How do I continue to add more value? Another topic, another issue is managing the business. Hey, I didn't get into this profession to run a business. I want to practice that which I love. And so, it became a little running the business sort of got in my way. Or how about finding the right employees? And so, well, sometimes in the Denver market where I'm located, there are not many people looking for jobs. And so how do you find the right team members? And then put in the mix cash flow. Well, when I was in my training program, they didn't really share with us that could even be an issue. And so for a lot of us as owners, it's an issue. And then the last one, how about, and also have a life? So, right? Nice. Right, Denise? So maybe we have some dogs we love, or some pets and we want to spend time with them. We have some family members, maybe grandchildren, maybe we're having our first child. So how do we actually lead a team, have a successful business, and do all those things, and have a life that actually is of value? And so those are some of the issues, Denise. So there are others that you run into that you hear owners complaining about or having to move beyond.
I think one of the things that, especially with our audience, we have a lot of wellness professionals in the audience, is the first thing that you said was delegating. And, there's a lot of aspects of running a business, but what if you don't have anyone to delegate to? Because it's
Yep. So, if you have a business, and let's say you're a massage therapist or nutritionist or Dr. Chiropractic, and you're just getting started and you're ready for the next tier, but you're actually doing most of it yourself, it's a big leap. And so then, it sort of leads to the title of our work today, which is who should you be talking to? And I know that I've owned several businesses, and so there's always the go-to. So there's the legal advice. So what is the legal structure I should have? Should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be an LLC, limited liability corp, or C corp, or S corp? All these, all these legal structures, and it's like, okay, well, I guess maybe it's the attorney I need to talk with, or, well, I want to make sure I'm doing my books right. So is this QuickBooks, or do I need a full-on accountant? Maybe I need some advice from a CPA firm. So maybe that's who I should be talking with. And then, of course, we have our friends. Some who are successful, and some maybe aren't any more successful than they want to be yet. And so they're maybe not good advice, but they're good to talk with. And then family members. And I know in my first business, I talked with others who were in the same business I was in and about the same stage of the business. So we didn't actually help each other that much. We talked. Sometimes there was some complaining, but we weren't able to find solutions. So those are some of the resources that we typically turn to when we're trying to take our business to the next tier and have a life that we want to live. So those are typically people that we go to.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes the friends and family, even though they can be emotionally supportive, may not have that which we need to really move our business forward. So maybe it's all of these people. And so I was thinking about this topic today, Denise, and I was thinking about a book that I read long ago. So it's not my work originally, but I've really used this book. For those of you who are note takers, in just a moment I'll give you the name of the book and the author. But this book has been an eye-opener for many, many of our clients, and regardless of the field or the business. And the name of the book is The E-Myth, the E like entrepreneur, E-Myth. And it's originally, that was his original book, and the author is Michael Gerber, Gerber. So Michael Gerber, great business consultant, has his finger on the pulse. And so if you have not read his book yet, or one of his books, I would suggest start with E-Myth Revisited. So that was a little bit later, after hundreds of thousands of business owners put into play the concepts of E-Myth. And so he rewrote an E-Myth Revisited. Probably is the best place to start now if you're just getting familiar with his work. So where does this idea of the 3 people you should talk to and outrageous success? So, I want to jump back, Denise, for a minute when we talked about the why. Why are you in business? And so outrageous success is defined uniquely by each person.
Absolutely.
So, right?
Absolutely.
And isn't it interesting when we talk to people, some people it's gross revenue, some people it's new clients per month, some people it's the amount of transformation I help my clients with. And but it's very personal. So getting clear on why am I in this, and then how do I measure success? What is outrageous success? Okay, so if we've done that really well, then let's jump into Michael Gerber's work and that which our clients have found most valuable.
Okay.
So the first is the technician. So all of us were trained in some level of technical expertise. So if you're an accountant, you learned everything to do with the newest and best techniques in accounting, and you bring that to your clientele. If you're a massage therapist, you went to some training program, you're into continuing education, and you become more and more technically excellent. It could be if you're a lawyer, if you're a nutritionist, if you're a naturopathic physician, if whatever it is, we fell in love with that gift that we had in that area. And we believed, at least a lot of us believed, that if I got even more training there, then my business would flourish. And I was working with a dentist not long ago who his practice was floundering. I mean, it was really a sad situation, but he was extremely well trained, did all the continuing education you could imagine, and yet his business was floundering. And I think if we look at the concept from the E-Myth, he believed that becoming a better technician was the secret. So the first is the technician. We'll talk in a little bit about how the technician talks and what voice they have in your business and what voice they should have. But I want to look at the other two components to the E-Myth. The second is the...
Do you want me to jump in now with question or a...
Please.
Okay. You know, one of the things I see with a lot of wellness professionals, and because that's my universe, so that's what I'm looking at more than anything else, is I see so many of them jumping from program to program to program because they believe exactly what you were talking about, that if they just add this new modality or they just do this over here, then the clients will start coming to them because they need to offer more. So I'm looking forward to hearing the solution to that, because it's something that I want to be able to talk more proficiently with them about.
Yes. You know, so there's a syndrome. So since you're in the wellness and health arena, I'll use the word syndrome. So there's a syndrome called, I call it the shiny object syndrome.
I call it ADO squirrel.
There you go. So I've been trained in this modality. It's starting to work well, but hey, wow, there's this great training over here, and now there's this one. And so I actually dilute my effectiveness by chasing that squirrel, that next program. I actually dilute my ability to serve my clientele because I can't be an expert at all of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's so attractive because we're all continual learners, and we love to learn more. We love to actually apply it, and it can sometimes get us into a trap.
Yeah. That's really good, Steve. Awesome.
So that's the technician. Now, technician, you have to, I mean, you don't go to an accountant who's never opened a QuickBooks.
God, I hope not.
Right? And you never go to a chiropractor who forgot to go to get their DC degree. Okay, so got to have technical. So what's next? So the next person you should speak to is the person who is the great manager. So this person would tell us that, you know, this is a person that realizes that we need to understand the numbers. This is where profit and loss. What is our cash flow situation? How do we manage assets in a way that allows us to invest in the right things at the right time? So this management, so the management voice that we need to listen to actually is adept at and wants to have everything make sense from a financial and an operational point of view. Okay, so, all right. So a lot of companies do that really well. A lot of smaller companies don't do it that well yet. They may know they need to, but sort of to your point on the first question was, okay, so if I don't have systems in place, when do I take the time to put them in place, and what are the best systems? So that management voice. And then the third and last voice that we need to listen to and chat with is the entrepreneurial voice and mindset.
Okay.
So a lot of people confuse manager and business owner with entrepreneur, and actually they're distinctly different. Not every good business owner is an entrepreneur, and not every entrepreneur is a good business owner. But if we segregate out that role called entrepreneur, or that voice or that person, the entrepreneur is all about fresh, new, innovative. What difference would it make if we?
The creative.
So yeah. And the entrepreneur may be the one that makes us go to that new technical training.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entrepreneur says, oh man, if you could just be better at this, then that would be the secret. So the entrepreneur thinks like that and brings that value to your business. So here's the coolest part of it all. For a small business owner, so this might be bad news, it might be good news, is you are probably all three of those voices.
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little like Sybil now.
Right? Right? And so wait a minute, I didn't go to entrepreneur school. Wait a minute, I didn't go to management school. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But really that's to be referenced. So since it's true that as the owner or the founder of a business, you really have to access all three of those outlooks, perspectives, or people, if you will, and you're probably going to be the one sort of wearing all those hats. What I'd like to look at a little bit is how do we listen to each of those advisors, the T, the technician, the M, the manager, and the E, the entrepreneur. How do we listen to them and actually give credibility to them, but not let any one of them take over?
Okay, I'm interested.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because it actually can be quite simple, but it is not easy.
It's not easy, the audience that we cater to, the wellness professionals, they are passionate about what they do, but most of them don't have that manager voice going on in their head. They don't have the entrepreneurial voice. I mean, they have the passion, but the voices are not strong enough. So, the resources that I see, or what their solutions are, they either have to learn it or they have to outsource it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the manager kicks in. He says, wait a minute, Denise, we don't have the money to outsource that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to learn it yourself.
Yep.
And then the entrepreneur part of it says, hey, I got no time to learn to be a better numbers cruncher because we need to build more business. We need to get out there and network. And then the technician says, would you both sort of be quiet for a moment? We need to take care of our clients.
Exactly.
So how many of you on the line, how many of you on this, this session actually have dealt with this? All of us.
Yeah.
Regardless of your chosen profession or how you're serving your clientele, guaranteed every business deals with this. Big companies deal with it, so they have a department and a division and a vice president. Oh, guess what? In your role, you get to be the vice president of each of those divisions.
Yep.
Okay. So let's think about this a little bit, and then I'd like to get to what you were asking, Denise, about how do I become more well-versed in those, and then how do I train myself to listen to them? Because if I'm wearing the technician's hat and I think, we should be networking more effectively. Okay, so I charge by the hour, by the visit, and the networking event is at 3 p.m., and my busiest hours are from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. does it make sense to go to that networking event? I might not meet anyone that needs me.
Right.
So you can see the conflict. Now the entrepreneur says, yeah, but you have to get out. You have to get out. You got to get your name out there. And the manager says, okay, so let's weigh this. And the technician says, I want to work on these issues for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an ongoing battle. And what I would say, this is kind of a bold statement, I would say we want that battle. We want that tension, because in that tension between those three advisors that we have within us is where creativity lies.
Oh, that's good.
In that tension. And so many of us, including me, were taught to avoid tension and conflict. So if part of it is having a mindset of, okay, so maybe this type of tension and conflict is actually good for the company. And so I have to, as you were saying just before we started, Denise, is to getting centered and grounded in what we're about to do. So if we're about to make an investment back in the business decision, I want to listen to all three of my advisors, and they all deserve equal time. And so sometimes that's maybe going to a quiet place in your house and journaling. Sometimes it's going to someplace that's high energy, more like a coffee shop or something where there's a lot of energy. For some people, they process better there. And allowing yourself to, if you will, honor the technician,
Mm-hmm.
the manager, and the entrepreneur within you, and resource those.
You know,
So, yeah.
let me jump in here. You know, I love the fact that you're giving people permission to listen to themselves and to really honor that they know what they need to be doing in their business by listening to these three voices that they have going on. You know, I teach, I've got these workshops and webinars called Hey Clients, Where Are You? And I had someone in a class recently. We were talking about attending networking events, and she was struggling with it. And, you know, part of it is it's the ones that she felt she needed to go to were in her prime business hours. And yet she felt she needed to go to these workshop or these meetup groups and networking. And she had all this struggle going on inside of her. And I finally asked her, I said, why do you feel you need to go to that networking group? She says, because that's what I'm told I'm supposed to be doing, because that's what experts out there have told her. And I gave her permission to not do that by just saying, you know, stop it. You need to listen to yourself. So you're just echoing what I've been saying as well. And I love that, is that sometimes we do need to sit back and listen to these three voices and listen to what we know needs to be done in our business and then go do it. And those are the wisest voices. Of course, outside counsel doesn't hurt, but it certainly helps. Anyways,
Right.
Sorry.
Well, what you just said too, there's so much wisdom, and the last part of your sentence, I think that was a long sentence with a bunch of semicolons and hyphens, but
yeah.
but in that long sentence, you said, and then go do it.
Yep. Yep.
So listen, reflect, make the decision that's appropriate in this moment, and then go do it.
Right.
So, you know, it sort of opens up a little bit of an interesting conversation too, Denise, and you were talking about listening to those bits of wisdom that we have internally, et cetera, and then trusting them and then taking action. What I find, and you all may have found this as well, which is the reason I don't take action often is because I want to do it right. And so I don't want to take action until I'm good at it. And so I can't be good at it until I practice through action. A little bit of a dilemma.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when it comes to, right, so like let's use your client around the networking event. So if he or she says, you know what, I really do, I know I need to network. There's an event this Wednesday night. It's from 5 to 7. I don't know anyone there, but I'm going to go there. And so he or she decides to do that. So just before they walk in the door, they say, I'm not really that good at networking, and I'd rather be home, and I had a hard day, and so I don't go. Did I get better at networking? Nope.
Yeah.
But I thought about it, and I talked about it, and I told a couple of my friends I was going. So one of the things, and this is a whole nother area, is who actually holds us accountable. Because if I commit to Denise that I'm going to go to a networking event, I'm expecting her tomorrow to say, hey, how was that networking event?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And most of us as owners don't have anyone doing that for us. We sort of hold ourselves accountable, and then we jump right into the next day and we're serving our clientele and we're going to continuing ed. Business happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I forget what I promised myself and I let it go. So that's a whole nother area of focus that I think would be valuable, Denise, for your clients. And that's one of the things that I do in my business is people construct the best commitment and accountability process that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's one of the things I do for a lot of our clients is once they've decided what works best for accountability, then I provide that for them.
It's critical, Steve. It's, you know, it's absolutely critical. I mean, I'm really not meaning to tout my book, but you're going in line with it. In the Hey Clients, Where Are You? We talk about building a house, you know, with the ground that you select and your intention and your ideal client and building the walls. But I talk about the roof, and the roof is what will protect you from the elements when things go bad. And I stress on there that they need to have an accountability partner or a coach of some sort, as you do, because when we are working for ourselves, it's a very lonely existence in many ways. And we need those people like you out there to help protect us from the elements that may come along, whether they are currently happening or not. You know that you have your roof in place, your coach, or your accountability partner. So good time to plug you, I got to tell you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. You know, this is interesting. We all have personal stories, and so, you know, I don't think this webinar is about me. It's really about all of you. But I will share this story that you might relate to parts of it. So I have a Doctor of Dental Surgery degree and graduated, highly technically trained. I thought, wow, you know, I went to one of the best schools in the U.S. and, you know, my clientele is going to come rushing to me, and I just need to make sure too many don't come in at the same time.
Right.
And so that was my biggest worry, was I would be too busy. Well, I found out pretty soon that wasn't going to be true. So I started working, keeping the doors open more and more hours.
Yeah.
And so at one point, the sole provider of care, I was open 6 days a week, often till 7 or 8 at night. And it wasn't because I was that busy.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I was hoping someone would call and I would be open and ready to serve them.
Wow.
So if any of you have experienced that, and, you know, as I started about how do you have time for life, okay, so let's see, I'm working Monday through Saturday, sort of sitting around waiting for clients. And I got Sunday to recoup, do the laundry, go shopping, and, be a real person. It can't work that way. And so I didn't have anyone holding me accountable to doing that which I actually knew needed to be done.
Wow. Wow. But you have you have a very good point here. You know, my husband's a massage therapist, and when he opened his practice a couple of years ago, he had availability every single day for just what you said. It wasn't to accommodate more clients. It was just to accommodate clients. And
Right.
he started working his business efficiently and getting some really good advice and support from other people. He scaled back his hours to so that we could have a life and have it more manageable. And what he found is that it became busier than he ever had been before when he set those boundaries. And because the clients could see that he didn't look like he was desperate for business. I don't know what it is. It's
Yep.
crazy. That's, you know, it just
That
started
is
going together.
very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Really interesting. Interesting. Well, you know, and so to that end, sometimes, so we're dealing with all these advisors now, the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, and all of them have the same intention, which is to have you be successful, but they all have a distinctly different approach and belief about what will get you there.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you may have thought, if I could only clone myself, if I could only work 24/7, so we know those are not possible. So then what are the solutions? What are the solutions? So a lot of our clients have actually jokingly said, you know, if I could only clone myself, I think I could work this out. Okay, well, maybe that's a process, is we might write a whole list of what would we do if we cloned ourselves. And now we decide, how do we use these three resources? So if we think about the technician again, so remember that the technician, regardless of your chosen way of serving, the technician wants to be the best and provide the best service in that chosen field possible. And the clients love it. The clients get the best. We can be proud of our work. And we get a great clinical result if we're in the clinical sciences. And we can be really proud of that if we have any clients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the technician absolutely needed, and every minute of your training was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Every minute. Okay, so we put that aside in a, let's say, not in a box. I don't want to close the box, but we'll set that aside as if we were sitting around in a living room having a chat.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the technician voice. So now we go to the manager voice, and the manager voice says, well, you know, I did read a piece on Google. I Googled a subject, or I did talk with a friend of mine who's an accountant or a bookkeeper, and he or she told me this or that about running a business. So actually, we do know a little more than we think. We've just never taken the time to maybe manage the business. So what do I mean by managing the business? So if you had shared the following with me when I was 27 years old, right out of dental school, I would have just glazed over. But I'm a little older than that now, and so I'm going to speak to the importance of this. So what is it that we measure in our business, and are those the right things? So here's an example. So maybe number of new clients, patients this month. And so then my question to you, if we were working together one-to-one, is I might say, why is that number important? Well, you would know that as a manager, even though you're not trained maybe as a manager, you would know why it's important to have a certain number of new clients. Well, it maybe has to do with turnover, or maybe it has to do with we're growing now. Maybe it has to do with a revenue point, so we can invest back in the practice. Oh, okay, so maybe we should be measuring revenue per month or per week or maybe per day. So the manager is asking those sorts of questions. And we all have this internal manager who says, so if we're down this week, does that mean we're going to have to close our doors? Or does that mean we just need to adjust something? So that the remaining 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the month are going to pull us out of that. So the manager is extremely valuable. So we're sitting on these couches in this living room talking, and the manager says, okay, so if we just step back for a moment and look at the numbers, and a lot of us, by the way, who are technically trained don't really enjoy looking at the numbers. But the manager, right? Yeah. The manager part says, but what if we did? What if we did? What would we see? And what decisions can we make as opposed to just, maybe you've heard flying by the seat of your pants. So that's the way I ran my first couple of businesses. And I was really good at it because, like you, I'm smart and hard worker and committed, and so we can get to a certain level with that, but then we're going to sort of reach our cap unless we start listening to the management voice. So questions about that, Denise, or clarification on the management part?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about those numbers and the manager. I think it's very important for that manager to really come out and say, yes, you know what, you may be flying by the seat of your pants, but we're going to look at these numbers on a monthly basis. And I think a lot of people don't, particularly when they're a small business owner and they're in it because of the passion and they didn't want to work for someone else. They don't want to look at those numbers because they create pain, because they're not what they should be. So those numbers, I think, are really important. And if I'm understanding you correctly, that's okay to have that pain because it's the entrepreneur and the technician who are going to say, okay, we're going to find a way to increase those, as well as the manager. Okay, let's pull together as a team to make, what do we need to be doing to get us where we need to be?
Yes, love it. And so if we take the pain metaphor just one step further, and so the manager might say to the technician, so you went into this field because you love it. If we don't manage the numbers, you will not have a business.
Yeah.
Now we're talking pain, right? So now we can say, wow, I'm the technician hat now. I love what I do. You mean if we don't manage this cash and these numbers appropriately, I may not have a business. I may not get to do that which I most love. And so now we've got a conversation where the technician and the manager are starting to at least align on, where we need to put our effort, and start focusing. And so the other reason, Denise said, a lot of health professionals don't track the numbers is the following. And I had this going for a long time. Look, Steve, I didn't go in this to make $1 million. I went into this to help people.
Yeah.
And I do not want to become a corporation that lives by the numbers. And I don't want to spend all this time managing by the numbers because I want to be spending the time, so if I'm wearing my technical hat, I want to be spending my time learning about how to be a better provider. So hear how confusing it gets.
Yeah, a lot of voices going on in the head there.
Oh my goodness. And so, right. And so the manager gets to talk with the technician and says, you know what, I got it. And my job for the company is to make sure you have a place to work and you have clients and we have cash to reinvest in the business and to buy a new table or to buy a new machine or to invest in new technology. So we're having this conversation, we're sitting around, and then we haven't yet heard from the entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur says, oh, guys, why are we going so slow? Why are we sitting in this meeting? We should be out meeting people. I mean, I was just in the Paneras, and I'll bet there's like 40 people in there who could use your services. Why aren't we at Paneras? Right? And so we're in the middle of this meeting, in a comfortable room and we're sitting there having a sophisticated adult conversation, and the entrepreneur jumps in with huge passion and fire for building the business and says, stop talking about it. Just go do it. Just go do it. So now it really gets complicated because, that makes some sense. But I don't like networking, or the technician says, I don't have time for it, or the manager says, okay, well, it's $40 to go to that networking event. Are you going to get the return on your investment that you need to make it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got this adult conversation with the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager that can actually have a relatively adult conversation without the teenage energy coming out or the 70-year-old coming out. It's actually an equal conversation, listening to the value of each of those. And it's almost, it may sound silly, but I found it works for me, is to, when the entrepreneur jumps in, I actually think with gratitude for that insight, because I would not have done that which the entrepreneur was suggesting without actually hearing it.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you go from here?
Yeah. So we all have some degree of that within us, right? So we all have an entrepreneur, at least to some, if we do a pie chart of all of your talents, some slice of that pie is an entrepreneur. Some slice of that pie is a manager. Some slice of that pie is a technician. So first and foremost, to your point earlier, Denise, is really using that internal expertise and ability as a group of resources. And then where do I get expertise? Well, I love Google. I call Google the family argument stopper.
So I hadn't heard it that way, but you're right.
Yeah. So the other day I was in an argument. It got a little heated, which is the busiest airport in the world? No, it's Frankfurt. No, it's Heathrow. No, it's. And I said, because I'm from Atlanta, as you can tell by my accent, I said, no, it's Atlanta. And everybody goes, no, not Atlanta. And so we Googled it. For like the last 8 years, Atlanta's been the busiest airport in the world. And I go, no more argument. Okay, let's move on. So we can Google almost anything. So you can Google some of the entrepreneurial traits that great entrepreneurs have. There's so many books. You can Google management basic. You don't need an MBA. You don't need an MBA, but basic business. And what should I measure? What should we try measuring this time? And then the technician, and where are some courses, some online courses I could learn about ways to deliver care more effectively. Okay, so we got all that. And then there are people who make their business is actually helping other businesses get that information. So Denise, you know this about my business and my business partner Laura. This is a lot of what we do. So if we use the medical model, part of what we do is we do intake, which is actually allowing us to do a diagnostic on your business. And then that sounds like a lot of questions and a lot of things that you know the answer to, you just may not have been asked those questions. So we do a diagnosis. And then from that diagnosis, then we do a treatment plan. So we look at the symptoms, the signs, and then we do a treatment plan. And then we present the treatment plan to you. And then you choose, does that sound like something that makes sense at this time? Does it sound like something that I'm ready to put the work into and implement? And if so, then we execute on the plan, or we provide the treatment. So in the medical model, diagnose it, create a treatment plan, present the treatment plan, and then execute on that to deliver the results that we want. So that comes full circle back to what I said at the beginning, which is why are you in business and what does success look like? And I don't define that. You do. And then we diagnose and look at, are we on track to bringing your dreams and your vision to life?
I love the way that you presented that because, as we've said a couple of times, the main listeners of this are my universe here of wellness professionals. Mm-hmm. Of course, we know there will be businesses that are not in that universe that will be listening to it as well. But particularly for wellness professionals, you wouldn't go to a chiropractor and say, crack my back, it hurts.
Right.
Or you wouldn't go to your primary care physician. You wouldn't have any faith in the doctor if they came in and just took one look at you and handed you a prescription and turned around and walked out the door.
Right.
You've got to be able to present what the symptoms are, get a diagnosis, a plan in place, and then execute that plan. And that was just brilliant the way that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's sort of the way I think, and so I'm glad it resonated. So I want to bring in this other piece now to this, and this is what you mentioned earlier and we talked about earlier. So now we've diagnosed, we've created a treatment plan. This is where each of your technical expertise comes into play. You can actually create the treatment plan that the patient, the client, could not. So you're the expert. Then you create the treatment plan, then you present it. And now you've got to be a little bit of an entrepreneur in a way to present that plan so that it is understandable, it resonates, and they can make a wise decision to go or no go. Mm-hmm. So the client, the patient decides, okay, cool, I'm going for it. Now we have to execute. Now we're back to the technician. So he or she gets to have fun. This is what I was trained for. I'm loving it. And then the manager says, what should we really be charging? Is this an hourly fee? Is this a case fee? Is this a issue fee? And so the manager helps determine all of that and updates that on a sort of a regular basis. Oh, and the technician is saying we need a new piece of test equipment. And the manager says, well, yes, we do, but we're not going to invest in that this month. We'll reassess at the end of the month. So the accountability to deliver on this is the other sweet spot that we provide. So we bring together, in this case, a group of wellness professionals, or mix the wellness professionals in with other types of business owners, and create an opportunity for them to present their challenge to their, you could say, board of advisors or business roundtable. And so let's say, Denise, if you were on one of those boards, you would say, here's what I'm looking at this month that I want to activate or move forward. Maybe there's some potential in the business that I haven't yet. And you ask these other owners, typically 6 to 8 other owners who are forward thinking like you ask them, what are their ideas? What are some best practices to do that? Oh, they love it because they're your board of advisors.
Yeah.
They bring ideas that are out of the box and maybe never even tried in your industry, but they work well in their industry. And so what could we extrapolate from that or pull from that approach that would work in your industry? And then you make a commitment, not to Steve, but to your other 6 or 7 board advisors. And so most of us are not going to let down 6 or 7 people that trust us.
I'm going to interject here that I've been, as you know, part of those advisory boards, and you are absolutely right. It is so powerful, particularly when you have people from other industries. My board, they kind of looked at me like they had no clue what planet I had come from sometimes, because I have an outside the box thinking type of a company. But their advice was so spot on because it was, bottom line was, it was business. And man, if you showed up at the next board meeting and they held you accountable, and if you dropped the ball, you pretty much knew it's because you dropped the ball. And you didn't want to disappoint them. You wanted to be able to go in and say, look, it worked. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Those business roundtables or those boards are, I think every business owner needs to be part of something like that.
Well, you know, what's interesting, and so you sort of spoke to at the beginning about being an owner is often very lonely. And so another outcome is it's not lonely, because actually every single person on your board has been through something just like it. It's like, wow, you mean I'm not the only one who didn't know this? Right? So it normalizes that which we're going through, and they bring great ideas, and those boards meet on a regular scheduled basis. So it's not like, you know, we should meet again sometime, because I've done that in my prior businesses, and we just don't ever find time to meet again.
Exactly.
So they're scheduled meetings, they're facilitated, so it's not just a conversation. And last of all, I don't know about you all, but for me, one of my core internal drivers is I must have fun and enjoy what I do.
Oh, yeah.
And so a saying that I have, I don't know if I made it up or not. If someone else made it up, I'll give them credit. So, but it is, this is really serious, but it does not have to be somber.
Oh, I love it.
Right? This is really serious, but this does not have to be somber. And so with that mindset and that outlook, these board meetings, and Denise, you've experienced it, is there can be a lot of laughter. There can be some little light jabs at each other. There's some playfulness, but it all comes from a high level of caring and commitment to each other. Well, when I had my first dental practice, actually, it looked like no one cared about me. They all came in concerned with their concerns, questions, pains, and I gave, and I had no one who cared about me.
I could feel that way.
And on this board, and on the board, everyone cares about you. So that's a little bit about us. I know this isn't an advertisement, but I just wanted to share that, Denise, so that it's a resource, because on the board, there will be people who think more like entrepreneurs, and there'll be people who think more like managers, and there'll be people who think more like technicians. And so you get that mix on the board itself as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind you promoting it, because, you know, we've talked about accountability. We've talked about having a business coach, and we've also talked about having the board approach to coaching. And I think it's really important to cover that wide spectrum so that people understand you have choices and there are differences. And it really, that range, when I said accountability partner, is at the lowest end. It's good, but it's a start to, you know, having coaches. They're fabulous. They're wonderful. But it still is somewhat of a lonely existence. It's when you have a combination of the accountability, you have the coaching that goes on, and you have advisors that are there to listen to you, because let's face it, sometimes our friends get tired of hearing about our business, right? You know, that's what you're all there for, and that you can contribute to their businesses. It is the range from, you know, that is going on there, but there's something for everyone. And it's definitely a great approach that, you know, serious entrepreneurs, it's an investment in yourself, and it's worth it.
Yeah, love what you said, serious, right? So that ties back to it's serious, but it doesn't have to be somber. So when I'm doing it alone, I can get pretty darn somber.
Yeah.
And worried and fearful. And then how creative can I be when I'm fearful about the unknown or cash flow, or I'm not tracking things correctly? And so I think, Denise, so some of the highlights for me about this, and thank you so much for allowing me to join you and all of you on the webinar, is coming back to what's your why? Why did you really get into this business, this profession, this career? And you're gifted at it. You spent hours and hours and hours, if not years and years, getting more and more gifted at providing it. And so are we actually working a job, or are we running a business?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have thought I was running a business, but I really just created a job for myself, which felt like a prison in a way, because it wasn't easy or simple.
Yeah.
So that, and then thinking about some of those common issues that I mentioned at the beginning, 99% of the entrepreneurs and business owners have dealt with all of those. The next piece is 3 people you should be talking with. And at first, they're all inside your own head, and you're actually much wiser than you think. And so tapping into that, journaling on that, making notes on that. And then I would say, if you have the time, read E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber. I do a lot of work with his framework. And then consider having something, maybe one of our boards. Be happy to talk with any of you about that. And one of the things that I didn't mention, but Denise did, is a component of this is the entrepreneurial coaching component that my business partner and I provide one-to-one. So it's not public information. This is very private. This is where you and I, or you and my business partner, talk very intimately about, here's what I'm up against. Here's what I want. Here's how much it hurts, or here's how proud I am, and let's go to the next level.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Except, thank you so much. Of course, I mean, as you can tell, I loved it. I was honored to be a part of the group here today. Just one, I happen to be the one who talked the most. I apologize for hogging the floor, but anyway, thanks for letting me talk a lot and share that which I'm most passionate about.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you, of course, my friend. And just so you know, you haven't seen the screen because we caught you on the phone today, but we did have, during the whole entire presentation, your lovely picture, a bio, and your information. So I'm encouraging anybody watching this, if you want more information, you want to see how Steve and his partner Laura can help you in your business, reach out to them and just discover for yourself what the alternative board can do for your business. So, Steve, thank you again. I am in deep gratitude to you for being a part of this, and look forward to our next conversation at some point, hopefully very soon.
Perfect.